My fiancé invited his ex to our wedding, then I found out he wanted her to design my wedding dress while celebrating our miscarriage with her. My fiancé wanted to invite an ex to our wedding. From what I know, she was horrible. Someone who always put him down and told him that she was the best he could ever do. She even cheated on him multiple times and he kept taking her back. The final time, she left him for his friend. I've had to pick up the pieces of his self-esteem for years after that relationship. My hands start trembling as soon as he mentions her name. The kitchen light flickers above us, casting strange shadows across his face as he tries to explain. I notice the half-washed dishes still sitting in the sink from dinner. We were laughing just an hour ago. Now the pasta has congealed on the plates, cold and forgotten like my excitement for our wedding. I ask why he wants her at our wedding. His voice gets this strange lilt when he talks about her, higher and faster, like he's trying to sound casual but can't quite manage it. He explains that he wants to show off his success and how he found someone better than her. I suddenly remember our third date, sitting across from him at that little Italian restaurant, how his eyes never left mine the entire night. There was no mention of exes then, no ghosts between us. When did that change? When did I become a prop in his revenge fantasy instead of a partner? While I appreciate the compliment, I ask if he's really so hung up on her that he's going to make our wedding about her. Honestly, once I say it, it's like someone else told me. I don't even realize what I'm saying, and I don't even understand it until I say it. He flinches like I've slapped him. His face turns red, not with embarrassment, but anger. He accuses me of not understanding, of being insecure. The wedding planning binder flies off the table as he gestures wildly. Pages of carefully selected venues and color swatches scattering across the floor. Rain pounds against our apartment windows as we argue. The storm outside matches the one brewing in our living room, where our wedding planning binder lies open, guest list page torn slightly at the corner from when I grabbed it too forcefully. Lightning illuminates his face for a second, and I don't recognize the person standing before me. I tell him that he shouldn't bother to invite her because we aren't getting married anymore. He looks stunned and eventually apologizes and tells me to forget about his ex. I feel angry and almost tell him he's the one who needs to forget about her. He storms out, slamming the door so hard that the framed photo of our engagement falls from the wall and shatters. I spend an hour picking glass from the carpet, each shard like a tiny piece of our future breaking apart in my hands. I twist my engagement ring around my finger as I think about what just happened. The diamond catches the light with each rotation. When I finally stop, I slide it off and place it on the table. The tan line beneath looks strange, foreign. The ring sits between us like a tiny monument to what could have been. He spends the day telling me that he's sorry for bringing it up. His mother calls, demanding to know why I'm being so dramatic about just a guest. Turns out he's been talking to his family about inviting the ex for weeks. They all think it's a wonderful idea, a power move to show how far he's come. I never knew they still kept in touch with her all these years. His sister texts me to say I'm being controlling and insecure. She reminds me that the ex will always be part of their family history, and I need to get over it. I block her number after she suggests that my reaction proves I know he's settled for me. I honestly start reconsidering the entire relationship. Am I being ridiculous? The question haunts me at 3 a.m. as I stare at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing beside me. Maybe everyone carries their past relationships with them. Maybe I'm expecting too much. But when I check his phone while he's sleeping, something I've never done before, I find years of messages between them. Nothing explicitly romantic, but a constant connection that he never mentioned. Birthday wishes, Christmas greetings, congratulations on promotions. The last message was sent just 2 days ago. Can't wait to see you at the wedding. It's been too long. Edit. 3 months before all this. I remember now what should have been a warning sign. 3 months ago, I discovered I was pregnant. We were careful, but these things happen. We hadn't planned on children before marriage, but after the initial shock, we embraced it. We only told my parents and my sister, wanting to wait until the first trimester was over before making a wider announcement. It happened at 10 weeks. The cramping started during a work meeting. By evening, I was in the hospital. He seemed so supportive during those awful days, holding my hand, bringing me tea, telling me we'd try again when we were ready. I believed that despite the devastation, this shared grief might bring us closer together. 2 weeks after returning home, I borrowed his iPad to watch a show while he was at the gym. A notification from her popped up, thinking of you today. Hope you're doing okay. When I opened it, I saw their entire conversation thread. He had told her about the pregnancy before even telling his own mother, and after the miscarriage, they'd exchanged dozens of messages. He wrote that it was probably for the best, that now he wasn't tied down forever if things didn't work out. She responded with a heart emoji. He told her he felt relieved. While I was still waking up crying each night, he was texting his ex that losing our baby was a blessing in disguise because he wasn't sure he wanted children in this relationship. I confronted him when he got home. He claimed he just needed someone objective to talk to, someone who wouldn't judge him for his complicated feelings, as if I was incapable of understanding nuance, of holding space for grief tinged with ambivalence, as if only she could truly understand him. I almost ended things then, but grief does strange things to your decision-making. I stayed, trying to rebuild what we had, trying to forget what I'd seen. Update: 5 days after the wedding invitation argument, so we decide to try some premarital counseling. Our wedding status changes from canceled to postponed indefinitely. The venue threatens to keep our deposit. My dress hangs in the closet like a ghost, mocking me. In our first counseling session, the therapist's carefully neutral expression shifts as she directs questions toward him, not me. The silence that follows her pointed inquiry about his need for external validation speaks volumes. When she asks him to imagine the wedding day with the ex there, he lights up, describing in vivid detail how she would react to the decorations, the venue, my dress. He doesn't seem to notice that he's talking about her more than our actual marriage. My fiancé tries to explain why he wanted to invite his ex, but he keeps changing his answers, each one making it worse. First, he explains that he just wanted some payback. I ask, and if she doesn't care? Would he then rub rub in her face our first child, our first home. He doesn't answer, but his pause tells me everything. I realize with horror that he's been fantasizing about her reaction to every milestone in our future together. A memory hits me. 6 months ago, his phone pinging with her text while we were on vacation. "Just checking in," he said dismissively. I didn't think anything of it then. Now it feels like a warning sign I ignored. We were making love that night when his phone lit up with her message. He glanced at it over my shoulder. I pretended not to notice. I remember freezing, my body still intertwined with his, as his eyes flicked to the screen. In our most intimate moment, she was still there between us. He didn't stop to answer it, but he didn't need to. The damage was done. I saw the slight shift in his expression, the momentary distraction. I was vulnerable, giving him everything, and part of his mind was with her. I finished our lovemaking on autopilot, feeling suddenly like a stranger in my own skin, wondering if he was thinking of her while he touched me. That night, I cried in the shower where he couldn't hear me. I told myself I was being paranoid. Now I realize my body knew what my mind refused to accept. I was never the only one in our bed. My fiancé eventually says he didn't mean it that way, that he just wanted to prove his worth. I point out that this means his ex is the only one who can determine his worth. His face crumples at this, and for the first time, I see that it's true. She still holds this power over him, a power he's given her, a power that I apparently can never have. My sister's face on the video call says everything before she speaks. The concern in her eyes confirms what I've been feeling. She noticed his behavior at Christmas dinner, the way his demeanor changed whenever stories from his past came up. She tells me he cornered our cousin, who works at the same company as his ex, and spent 30 minutes interrogating her about his ex's current life, boyfriend, career advancements. We keep going like this for weeks in counseling, and every answer he gives confirms one thing. He cares what his ex thinks and apparently can't be happy unless his ex feels some sort of way. He denies it, but I find it hard to believe him. I make the mistake of checking social media. His ex has posted about receiving a surprising wedding invitation. The comment section is filled with their mutual friends laughing about it, making jokes about how he never got over her. I discover he's been liking all her photos for years, every single one. I picture my life without him, my apartment with just my things, holidays alone, starting over with dating apps and awkward first meetings. Then I picture my life with him, always wondering if I measure up to her, always feeling like I'm being compared, always competing with a ghost. Both futures terrify me, but one at least has the possibility of finding someone who sees me as the main character in their story, not a supporting actress. I don't want our marriage to be only worth something if his ex is the only one who can determine it. I refuse to be with someone whose happiness revolves around their ex's feelings. I decide to at least continue counseling. We have been together for years now. He was with his ex for about 2 years, then 3 years later, he met me, and we have been together for 4. I figure I should try, so at least I can say I tried. 2 months into counseling, I decide to go wedding dress shopping again, hoping to rekindle some excitement about our future. My mother joins me at the boutique where I had found my dress, a vintage-inspired gown with delicate beadwork and an open back. She had cried when I first tried it on, telling me I looked absolutely perfect. I had sworn everyone to secrecy, wanting to surprise him on our wedding day. The night before this second shopping trip, I'm using his laptop when I notice a file named Wedding Final. Thinking it's our updated guest list, I open it. Instead, I find a folder of photos, pictures of me in my wedding dress at the boutique, pictures I hadn't shared with him, pictures my mother must have secretly sent. That isn't the worst part. The email thread below shows he'd forwarded these private photos to his ex, asking for her opinion. He wrote asking what she thought, and to be honest, her response makes me physically ill. It's pretty basic. Remember that mermaid style I always said would be my dream dress? That would look so much better. This one does her no favors. His reply, I've been trying to get her to consider other styles. Maybe if you send some examples. The next day at the bridal shop, he unexpectedly joins us, suddenly having strong opinions about my perfect dress. He asks if I've considered something more form-fitting, maybe something with more drama. He pulls a mermaid-style gown from the rack, exactly the style his ex had described as her dream dress. He is trying to remake me in her image, down to what I would wear on our wedding day. That night, I find myself standing in our closet, staring at my wedding dress in its garment bag. With shaking hands, I zip it closed completely, then push it to the back, behind winter coats we won't need for months. As I turn to leave, I notice a small box tucked on his shelf. Inside is a bracelet I've never seen before, with a receipt dated last month. It's not my style at all. I look at the engraving inside, to new beginnings. It's not meant for me. The next day, I find an old handwritten letter from her in his keepsake box, dated just after their breakup. You'll never find anyone who understands you like I do, it said. The paper is worn thin at the creases, as if read hundreds of times. It is stored with our engagement photos. Update, almost 5 months after the wedding invitation argument. We break up. We've gone to counseling for almost 5 months, and I just keep feeling worse and worse. The final straw comes when our mutual friend Miguel lets slip that he's seen my fiancé and his ex having lunch together multiple times over the past month. When I confront my fiancé, he admits he's been meeting her for coffee to discuss wedding logistics. His therapist apparently suggested it would help him get closure. 5 meetings in 2 weeks isn't closure, it's dating. I'm reminded of all the times he steered conversations away from topics that might involve her, how uncomfortable he became whenever anyone almost mentioned her. Miguel later messages me to apologize, confessing he almost accidentally mentioned seeing my fiancé and his ex having lunch together weeks earlier, even before our counseling began. My fiancé thinks this reminds him of some comments he read on previous social media posts about us, how she was meant to be nothing except something to be made fun of. He simply does not understand I do not want his ex involved in our relationship in any way, shape, or form, including in his head. I tell him I don't want him to look at me at the altar with his ex in his head. He just doesn't get it. He thinks because he wants her to feel bad, it's okay. The night I end things for good, I find a draft of his wedding vows on his laptop. They are beautiful, poetic, meaningful, meaningful, heartfelt, but there is a line that destroys me. I never thought I'd find happiness again after losing my first love, but you showed me how to believe again. First love. That's how he still thinks of her. Not the woman who cheated, who belittled him, who broke him. His first love. What does that make me? The consolation prize? I realize we've been living with 3 people in this relationship all along. Him, me, and the ghost of who he was when he was with her. There's not enough room for all of us. When I finally tell him it's over, he breaks down, sobbing that I'm throwing away everything over nothing. He doesn't even see it. That's when I know I'm making the right choice. His friends start a group chat to convince me I'm overreacting. They send screenshots of conversations where he defends me, saying I'm just insecure, but he loves me anyway. One of them helpfully mentions that at least I'm prettier than she is, as if that's the problem. As if I'm competing in a pageant I never entered. Honestly, at some point I realize we're talking about his damn ex every day, and it just hits me. I don't want to ever hear him talk about her again. I don't want to hear her damn name again. I don't want a husband who constantly thinks about what his ex thinks of him. I want someone who is with me because they want me, not because they want someone else to see what they're missing. 2 weeks after our breakup, I see them together at a restaurant. My friends try to rush me out before I notice, but it's too late. They're not kissing or holding hands, just talking intensely over wine. Somehow that hurts more. 3 days later, his relationship status changes on social media. It's complicated. The comment section fills with winking emojis from mutual friends who always knew they'd find their way back to each other. Over coffee, his old roommate lets slip information I never asked for but now can't unknow. The stories of how he obsessed over his ex for months after their breakup, keeping her photo, tracking her social media. Each word feels like another crack in what I thought we had. Apparently, he had my engagement ring for 6 months before proposing, waiting for the right moment. The roommate accidentally mentions it was purchased the day after his ex announced her engagement to someone else. It's actually been a few weeks since our breakup, and I feel so relieved I haven't heard my ex talk about his ex. My friends tell me he's been telling everyone that I was too jealous and couldn't handle his past. His mother called me immature in a community Facebook group we both belong to. I've blocked them all. I freeze in the coffee shop doorway when I spot him at a corner table. It's been 3 weeks since I last saw him, and I'm not prepared for this. He hasn't seen me yet. I could leave. Instead, I straighten my spine and walk to the counter, order my usual, and nod briefly in his direction when our eyes meet. Progress. As I turn to leave, I notice who he's waiting for. She walks in, greeting him with a hug that lasts too long. They look right together in a way we never did. I realize I'm not even angry anymore, just sad for the years I spent competing with someone who had already won. I'm clearing out a drawer when I find a photo strip of us from a fair last summer, both of us laughing, his arm around my shoulders. I study his expression, wondering if he was thinking of her even then, wondering if any of it was real. Then I tuck the photos into a box marked PAST. Underneath the photos is a list I made once of all the things I loved about him. I start a new list, things I'm looking for next time. The first item, someone whose past stays in the past. The question of what we were building hangs in the air between us as we sit on opposite ends of the couch during our final conversation. A marriage or a showcase to prove something to someone who shouldn't matter anymore? The silence that follows feels like an answer in itself. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever trust anyone again, or if I'll always be looking for signs that I'm just a supporting character in someone else's revenge story. But then I remember I was strong enough to walk away, and that's a story worth telling.